You're listening to ToC of Champions, an Ole Miss Spirit podcast with Ben Garrett.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time!
Cheers to you, Ole Miss fan, on this, the greatest Ole Miss day, at least football-wise, in the modern era. Welcome inside ToC of Champions. I'm Ben Garrett inside the Riverland Roofing Studios, the little house up top for all your roofing needs. It's Riverland Roofing, 662-644-4297, riverlandroofing.com. I write and talk about your Ole Miss Rebels all day, every day at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, an affiliate of On3. Sign up today for just $1 because now Ole Miss is making its playoff push. Its odds went from 30% chance of making the playoff with those two losses to Kentucky and LSU from 30% to 65% with a 28-10 beatdown of number 3 Georgia. What an incredible Ole Miss day. Obviously, the result is the most important thing. But I'll tell you what really stuck out to me the most. From start to finish, I got over there very early. I went to the Barstool event with Mincy. Shook hands with Brandon Walker, a great guy, plays his character really well. Billy Landis and Riverland Roofing, I saw them. I saw Miss Tracy Ivy. Like, if you don't understand how much Riverland is doing in the NIL space for Ole Miss specifically in the procurement of players, and then to see that added, and like some rocket fuel added to those efforts through Barstool giving, or the Brick Watch Company, $40,000 to the Grove Collective. It was a win of a day no matter what. The players that came into town, former players, Mike Hilton locking the vault. Mike is one of the greatest Ole Miss Rebels of all time, most beloved. DK Metcalf doing the hottie toddy. Seeing Mincy, seeing all of that crew. Sudo Upadea, who used to work at the Spirit, now doing great things covering Georgia. He was on the podcast this week and predicted this game almost down to an absolute T. All of it. The fellowship. It felt like Ole Miss. Miss Tracy Ivy, saw her in the Grove. Our guy, Jared Ivy, Money Year J.I. is unstoppable. He's the first helmet sticker on this edition of ToC of Champions because he terrorized that Georgia offensive line. So Caden Lee's mother, he's going to be doing a podcast for us at the Ole Miss Spirit, omspirit.com, affiliate of On3. I called before the year, Caden Lee's breakout year, and sure enough, a breakout effort for him. On and on and on it goes on a perfect Ole Miss day. I hadn't been to an Ole Miss game, at least to get to see the pregame and all the new additions to that as well, all year at least. It felt like what you, the Ole Miss fan, have been wanting your entire life. Ole Miss has arrived at a place of national relevancy and contention, and now there is not a single solitary team or authority figure like the NCAA and their crookedness standing in their way. But could you finally get the big win? Lane Kiffin, you get the second helmet sticker. Could he get the big win? Finally get a big win. He got one. The absolute biggest win of his career. It's the highest ranked opponent, Georgia, that Ole Miss has ever beaten at home. And what a difference a year makes. Lane Kiffin has gotten a lot of criticism this year, mostly from your friendly neighborhood Ginger Shrek. He didn't seem like himself. The Kentucky loss was still and still is inexplicable, but winning cures all. And we were waiting to see this earlier in the year. We thought we'd be seeing this kind of effort earlier in the year because offensively, that's where all the problems were. Disjointed, broken offense. And offense always falls at the feet of Lane Kiffin, regardless if he's got an OC or not. Sure, Charlie Weiss deserves a lot of credit. He's had a great last 2 weeks. But Lane will always, first and foremost, get all the praise and all the criticism when the offense is or isn't operating as it's supposed to. And this offense wasn't great, but it was gritty and it was determined. And the scheming open of wide receivers, seeing Caden Lee, the breakout guy, do his thing. Jordan Watkins, another big day. Of course, Lane was gaming the injury report in regards to Jordan Watkins. Jordan Watkins didn't practice on Tuesday, but just called it a rest day. He was never not going to play. Trey Harris, they thought he might be able to play, but like I've been telling you guys, with Trey, it's a very serious groin injury. All I've heard is bad things. Anything you get from Trey Harris the rest of the way should be considered a bonus. But at the end of the day, there was no excuse. Because this Georgia team, as good as they are, Ole Miss was better. Ole Miss was better equipped. Ole Miss had the horses that it did not have last year. Because, again, what a difference a year makes. Lane Kiffin has accomplished so much in his Ole Miss career. So much. And last year, one of the greatest accomplishments, 11 wins in a season for the first time in Ole Miss history. And yet, it wasn't enough. Not for him, not for anybody. Because of a 5-touchdown loss at Georgia that informed every decision, both personnel, coaching, you name it, every decision that Lane Kiffin and company have made since that disastrous trip to Athens that showed Ole Miss and all who are associated with it, be it an official or an unofficial capacity as a fan, showed how far away Ole Miss actually is. That game informed every decision, every recruiting choice. This defensive line, the greatest collection of defensive line talent in Ole Miss history. We got to say it now. I love Prey and Jarrell Poe and Greg Hardy and my guy Kentrell Lockett 40. I love those guys. They were dominant. What this group just did against that team, that offensive line, that quarterback who's a first-round grade, even though he's been struggling with turnovers, I think now an interception, one or more interceptions in 5 of his last 6 games. But Ole Miss did it to them. It wasn't like he was throwing it to Ole Miss. Ole Miss was creating the pressures. Princely Umanmielen has multiple sacks in 3 straight games. He's a first-rounder. He's now worked his way back into a first-round grade. Walter Nolan was already that. Still not getting any holding calls, which is beyond me at this point. The man commands 2 or 3 guys a play and never gets a holding call. Suntarine Perkins, he got held on one of the last drives, I think, in the 4th quarter for Georgia, inexplicably, right in front of the head ref. No call. No excuses. No excuses. Just like there were no excuses after Kentucky, no excuses after LSU. When Jackson Dart said, well, we just got to win out. You're dang right. And they have so far so good won out. Oklahoma, Arkansas, and now Georgia, 28-10 to improve to 8-2 and 4-2 in the SEC. You can't script this stuff. It's the entire Ole Miss experience packed into one season. You had your 4th and 25 moment with Kentucky, only for Ole Miss to then essentially end its season at LSU, a place it hasn't won since 2008. And then they turn around and figure it out. They don't fold up shop. You didn't have endless transfers out, opt-outs because they kept losing. No, Ole Miss did what Ole Miss teams typically don't do. Took over, owned their stuff, and now here they are with a 65% chance of making the playoff when going into the game had a 30%, and if they lost, a 1% chance. What an incredible Ole Miss day. The community, it felt like Ole Miss, all of it. I hadn't seen that pregame and the flyover. Another record attendance. That's 4 this year. They've set the new record attendance, or the new attendance record, 4 times at the fans this year. All you were waiting for is that one big Ole Miss moment. Lane Kiffin's giving you everything else. But when the popcorn was supposed to be ready for Alabama, it didn't happen. LSU this year, just pick your game. Last year at LSU was the best win. Last year against LSU and Jaden Daniels was the best win that Lane Kiffin and company had ever put together at Ole Miss. Georgia this year, no contest. And our 3rd helmet sticker goes to Pete Golding because the man has put together the best Ole Miss defense we've ever seen. Trying to argue it, it's impossible at this point at all 3 levels. Trey Amos doesn't get enough credit for being an absolutely dominant, shut-down boundary corner. He's been so dominant and so shut down that they've been able to experiment at field corner with a bunch of different options. Jaden Kennedy has settled in pretty good, and he's got the, I think, most pass breakups now in college football. Now it's because he was getting targeted. But Jaden Kennedy has come into his own with all of this elite talent around him. Chris Poopaw going into last week against Arkansas was the number 2 rated linebacker in all of college football, according to Pro Football Focus. The best follow for NFL draft coverage is Dane Brugler of The Athletic, and he sent this out in the game. Ole Miss entered this game with almost 100 more pressures in 2024 than Georgia, 220 compared to 127. The starting front four on the Rebels defensive line, Princely Monmiela, Jared Ivey, Walter Nolan, J.J. Pegues will be drafted in April. I'll take it a step further. They're all top 3 round draft grades. Princely, again, multiple sacks in 3 straight games now. Walter Nolan, the highest graded defensive tackle in the SEC, according to Pro Football Focus. And then my guy, Jared Ivey, Money Year J.I. He has been Ole Miss's highest rated defender on a defense that leads the nation in sacks, leads the nation in tackles for loss. But could you do it against Georgia? 11 wins last year, historic, but you lost by 5 touchdowns to Georgia. This team was built for this game. They didn't let us down. Even spotted Georgia a touchdown. I'm going to be honest with you. I was asked on the Ole Miss Spirit message board this week, what significance, what's the true significance? What would it be if Ole Miss were to beat Georgia? And of course, it's the most significant win in the modern era. There's so much you could say about the historic nature of that win. But for me and for long-held Ole Miss people like you that are paying attention right now, I've been at this almost 40 years. Essentially, for me, this was the game, could be the win that Ole Miss fans, and I was there, were robbed of in 2003. And they had like the reverse of that game. Travis Johnson intercepted Matty Mock. Ole Miss spotted Georgia a touchdown with that early interception, but instead of what we expect from Ole Miss in these kind of big next-level stage games, they responded. And not only did they respond, the fans responded too. They didn't hang their heads and go, oh gosh, here we are Ole Miss, right? They didn't do any of that. They re-engaged. Austin Simmons, I told y'all this before the year. I said if Austin Simmons gets into a game, he could do to Jackson Dart what Tua did to Jalen Hurts. And dang it if he didn't almost do it. Good thing Jackson could come in. But look, if we want to give another helmet sticker, Austin Simmons before Jackson Dart, who had a legacy game today. Austin Simmons comes in on that second drive and leads it flawlessly. He is QB1 starting next year. But also, he proved today that he could potentially bring something to the offense that even Jackson doesn't have. That deep ball accuracy. But Jackson, this is his team, and he comes back in and he continues the fight without much of a running game. Better than it has been, but still not much to write home about. Red zone inefficiency had been a problem all year. Almost was in the 70s nationally in red zone efficiency. And today wasn't great, but what a dot from Jackson Dart, another helmet sticker, to Juice Wells. Give that man a helmet sticker. I want to give everybody a helmet sticker. I know I've got to slow down. That's already 5 given out. But that's the significance of this day. Everyone from the coaches to the players to the fans to the media to all pulling in the same direction on a historic, unforgettable, memorable day for Ole Miss football that will never be forgotten. This is really the one thing, the one delivered win that Ole Miss fans have been begging for. And they finally got it. Now, the road is still tricky. You got a bye week, and then it's Florida, a road trip to Florida. But Florida got beat pretty bad today, but not pretty bad, bad by Texas today. Mississippi State, the Egg Bowl, it's always funky. Ole Miss should win those games. We'll be favored in those games. And the days of going, well, I hope they don't get upset by so-and-so. No, if they do, you should get angry and say, that's inexcusable. Hold them to account. Don't go start thinking today, well, I hope. No. Ole Miss is a better team than their final 2 teams on the schedule. If they don't win those games, they deserve all the criticism levied their way, just as they deserved all the criticism levied their way in the loss to Kentucky. LSU was more explainable, less inexplicable, but still a loss is a loss is a loss. And Ole Miss had not won there since 2008. All of those historic trends that we're so used to Ole Miss living up to, this team threw out like it was yesterday's garbage.
Protecting homes and businesses from the whims of nature, you need more than just quality materials. You require Riverland Roofing. Licensed, insured, and certified, Riverland Roofing offers not only the assurance of excellence, but a tailored approach to your unique structural needs and budget. To learn more about what Riverland Roofing can do for you and the community, call them at 662-644-4297 or visit riverlandroofing.com.
Jackson Dart, 13 of 22, 199, a touchdown in the interception, but he bounced back in that legacy run on that final drive, that final scoring drive to put it away. Caden Davis, he gets another of our helmet stickers here. He was 5 for 5 for 16 points. He beat Georgia by himself. A hat tip to our guy, producer Flip, for that. Caleb Cunningham and Deuce Knight were in town, the 2 5-star in-state prospects. I'll have more on recruiting next week, but I think Ole Miss is landing Caleb Cunningham. Deuce Knight, I don't know nearly as much about. I think Ole Miss is going to land Caleb Cunningham. There's so much to be excited about, but ultimately it comes down to they got it done. They did it. And again, fans, you deserve a helmet sticker. 68,126, the 4th attendance record set by Ole Miss fans this year. I want to take a moment, though, about Lane Kiffin. I've been hard on him, really hard on him. Mainly because I didn't think he looked himself this year. Winning cures all. And Lane Kiffin did the thing that everyone has been waiting for him to do. He deserves all the credit in the world, just like he deserved all the credit in the world for 11 wins last year, just like he deserved all the criticism after Kentucky, even after LSU. He deserved all kinds of credit today. In his first 4 games, his teams against AP top 5 teams, his defenses had allowed 52 points. This Ole Miss defense, the best in the history of Ole Miss athletics, Ole Miss football, gave up 10. That's insane. Georgia had won 52 straight against teams other than Alabama. Ole Miss was 0-11 all-time at home versus AP top 2 teams. All of that gone. The glass ceiling has been broken through, and it starts with Lane Kiffin. Lane won the week. He won the week. He gets all kinds of credit today. But just as he gets a ton of credit in a legacy game, so does Jackson Dart, despite Austin Simmons coming in 5 for 6, 64 yards. He looked incredible. Jackson Dart, we said during the week, all throughout the week, this was a legacy game. You lived up to it. That legacy play at the end with your feet. Great play. Caden Lee on the breakout. He gets one, 481. Targeted 5 times. Jordan Watkins, game in the injury report a little bit, 4 for 68 on 7 targets. Ulysses Bentley had, I think, 66 combined all-purpose yards, but most of his damage came as a receiver. That 31-yard gainer, a big play in the game as well. Juice Wells on the fingertip catch. There's hero after hero after hero today. But I think the thing that's really sitting with me the most is how special of a moment it is to be sharing with y'all. Seriously, all throughout the Grove, I'm walking out there. I hadn't been out there in a while. Not this year, not last year. I had not been to the Grove on an Ole Miss football Saturday. I arrive, I get to the parking garage, I walk down, get my pass from Ashley. Hi, Ashley. She's awesome. I hadn't seen her in a while. But how many of y'all came up to me wanting to talk about this game and thanking me for this podcast? It meant the world to me. It really did. So many of you coming up to me, and it reminded me of what this used to be about. The spirit of the thing, right? This felt like Ole Miss. I saw an older gentleman welcoming Georgia fans to the stadium, saying, we're glad to have y'all here. Sometimes in this new culture, we can get wrapped up in the day-to-day, the minutia of it. Which players Ole Miss can pull out of the portal, like what's going on here, this, that, and the other. We take our focus away from what made Ole Miss special to begin with, and that's the community. It's not just blowing smoke to hear Dave Portnoy and Dan Katz and even Brandon Walker, when he's not playing his Mississippi State character, talk about the incredible response that Oxford provided for them. Mincy went crowd surfing at the library last night. Now, he learned that you can't crowd surf diving forward, so he went with the full trust fall way. So good for that. Mincy's, he's learning. But it's, if you introduce anyone to Oxford or Ole Miss on the perfect Ole Miss football Saturday, there is something uniquely special about it. But you all knew that. You just wanted the result that came with, because that's every Saturday occurrence at Alabama, every Saturday occurrence at Georgia. Ole Miss has arrived at a place I, honest to God, never thought I'd see. Even having done this for a while, because I'm deep-rooted in We Are Ole Miss stuff. My favorite game of all time is right here on this wall. 2001 Ole Miss, Alabama. Joe Gunn going in from Amory, Mississippi. The connective tissue we used to have with Ole Miss that has been in many ways lost comparatively to the old days. And then this day happens, and all that it entailed. Every Ole Miss person descended on Oxford, Mississippi. It was family reunion, friend reunion after family and friend reunion, over and over and over and over again. Sharing in what it could be. And all Ole Miss as we known it for the longest was promise. Well, now it's results. It's production. It's proven. They did it. They went and did it. The popcorn was made, and it was sent out, and it was ate. It was all there for Ole Miss today. And that's what I'm taking a moment in today, right now, on this podcast. I'm a little flustered by what I watched, just because I never thought I'd see the result. I remember how it affected me emotionally to see that Ole Miss team in 2008 beat Tim Tebow and Florida in the Swamp, because those were my friends. I was at school at the time. I mean, Kentrell Lockett was a friend of mine. Brandon Bolden, I wanted that for them just as much as I wanted to see the Ole Miss Rebels beat Florida and Tim Tebow. This was an Ole Miss day. An Ole Miss day. At least for me. I can't speak for everyone else. But walking that grove and having people wanting to come up to me and talk to me and take a picture with this idiot. I mean, Mincy's one thing, and he gets swamped out there. But that was unique. It was encouraging. And that's what Ole Miss is. May we always be encouraging, even in defeat. I was a little too hard on Lane. I was. But also, I stand by the points of it. At the end of the day, offensive brokenness falls at the feet of Lane Kiffin, who is what? The offensive guru. Just as if things were going wrong defensively and Kirby was the head coach, they would blame Kirby first. Real quick, before you Google it, can you name Georgia's defensive coordinator? It's harder than you think. You know, when you associate what you associate with Lane Kiffin is offense, as you associate defense with Nick Saban, with Kirby Smart. That was really the crux of my frustration with this team in particular, the lack of creativity. And then now over the last, I guess it's 10 quarters, Arkansas, Georgia, and 2 quarters against Oklahoma, this offense has looked more like itself. So a helmet sticker really goes to everybody. It goes to you too. It goes to Ole Miss, because today Ole Miss felt like Ole Miss always felt to me. I was having these weird flashbacky moments, these like deja vu moments walking around the Turner Center, because that's where we used to tailgate. And I was like, man, this place is going to go crazy if they win. Even though all week I said, man, and I told people like this, that would come up to me and ask me in the Grove, hey, Spirit Man, what do you think about the game? I thought Ole Miss could attack Georgia, the Georgia secondary, in similar ways to Arkansas. Did I think it'd be 63-31? No, I said 30-20. Got decently close, 28-10. Point still, this is not the same Georgia of old, but certainly the boogeyman of the SEC. And you're going to have to go through them if you want to make the playoff. It doesn't matter if you're Ole Miss or anybody else. And Ole Miss did. Now, makes you go, dang, if you could have just won one of Kentucky and LSU, you'd be really sitting pretty. Going to Atlanta for the first time, nothing can take away from this day. And that defense, like I said, has been there all year. Special teams ranked number 2 nationally all year. I want to give helmet stickers to everyone. I want to say everyone won the week. But, Lane, you won the week. And then I look at all the helmet stickers we're giving out first, and we got to give it to almost the entire defense. Jared finished with 7 tackles, a half tackle for loss, and a forced fumble. Princely Umanmielen, 5 tackles, 2 sacks. He's a first-rounder. 2 tackles for loss, forced fumble. Give him a helmet sticker. John Saunders got an interception. He's now 5th in Ole Miss history in interceptions. He's been playing here 2 years. 2 years. Helmet sticker, 2 pass breakups too. Walter Nolan doesn't get enough credit because his box score is always empty as he's getting doubled and triple team, and no one wreaks more havoc. So, helmet sticker. Jaden Kennedy, helmet sticker. TJ Daugherty led Ole Miss in tackling with 10, helmet sticker. Chris Paul, one of the highest graded linebackers in the country. No longer does Ole Miss have to go, well, yeah, the defense is good, but because Ole Miss couldn't find linebackers, they've got linebackers, not just Chris Paul either. TJ Daugherty. Centarian Perkins, the 5-star plus prospect. He's been every bit as good as Ole Miss could have possibly hoped for in year 2. 3 quarterback hurries, at least 2 non-called holding penalties against him. Came into the game leading the SEC in sacks. Xavier Harris has turned himself into a monster. Helmet sticker, helmet sticker. J.J. Pegues, the best, most efficient short yardage runner for Ole Miss. He got hurt, banged up, came back in. It was a muscle. I think it's like his neck muscle or something like that. They were worried about concussion too. But he came back in. He gets a helmet sticker. You get a helmet sticker. Most of all, you get to revel in this moment. We get to do it together. Cheers. Because Ole Miss did the thing we're not used to Ole Miss doing. Win the big one. Now, if you look at the SEC, Alabama and LSU, one of those teams is going to have its elimination loss today. As I'm recording this, they're playing. Let me ask you now, Ole Miss at 8-2, is it not the best team in the SEC? Who's got our best argument? For a while, it was Georgia. Texas is a good football team. I would pit this Ole Miss defense against any offense you want to stack against. At all 3 levels, Ole Miss has NFL players. TJ Daugherty is going to play on Sundays. A little undersized, but Chris Paul, he's going to play on Sundays. He's at worst Ashley Palmer track, and Ashley Palmer stuck for like 6 or 7 years with the Lions. Trey Amos has had a breakout year. Last year, he transferred from Louisiana to Alabama to take that step, to make that star turn, as so many do in the portal coming from lower level schools. He ended up being relegated to essentially nickel corner role for Alabama. Didn't have much of an impact. In this year, he's been Ole Miss's lockdown cornerback. What did he finish with? Oh, he was 4th on the team in tackles. 6, 3 solos, a tackle for loss. He too forced a fumble. Everything has come together. That's why it was frustrating after Kentucky. That's why it's frustrating against LSU after LSU, because Ole Miss was built for this specifically, and they delivered it. Now, how they got here was funky, but all of it has come together. Trey Amos has hit. Jared Ivey has leveled up. Chris Paul hit out of the portal. Prince Monmiel hit out of the portal. Caden Lee has broken out. Jordan Watkins has been a godsend the last 2 weeks, even though he has not practiced all year with myriad injuries. Juice Wells has been up and down, but man, when they needed him the most, he made the play. Now, Ole Miss still, or unfortunately for this game, lost its tight ends again. Daquan Wright got 5 targets, but only 2 for 23 yards. Caden Prieskorn got 1 catch for 26 yards. He was only targeted once. He's banged up too. But that's pick and nits. It's a very strange post-game show for me because I know what I wanted to say. I wanted to go all analytical and break down the grading. That can save till Monday. This is a winning Saturday for Ole Miss that will go down as one of the greatest ever. So I just want to enjoy it with you, because I'm kind of shocked too. I thought they were better. The analytical part of me said, I think they're winning this game. Y'all been listening to me. I'm not shy. But also the back in my mind was Ole Miss will do what Ole Miss does. And they didn't. They won 28-10. They beat up on Georgia, the best team in the country since 2020. What an unbelievable Ole Miss day. And I hope that you're reveling in it as much as I am, because just as great as the final score was as far as what I do for a living, I didn't want to come on here after a loss and go, oh, well, what's going to happen? That would have been terrible. It's way better this way. But even more than that, for me, man, today felt like Ole Miss. It was so cool. It was a big family reunion. Everybody showed up. And then Ole Miss beat the best team in college football the last 5 years and beat the absolute crap out of them, smothering them with a championship caliber defense. And now everything's in front of them. Florida's going to be tricky. You got another bye week. State is state. It's the Egg Bowl. It's funky. We always waited. We thought Hugh Freeze was on the precipice of breaking through the glass ceiling. We thought time and again Lane Kiffin was right there on the precipice. This was the one that Lane was going to make Lane truly take Ole Miss to the next level. He'd already done that. Turned out it was this one. This is the game they built this team for, but they also didn't build it to lose twice to Kentucky and then LSU. And it didn't matter. And they're peaking at the right time. They are the best team in the country when they're playing at their absolute peak capacity. Look around. Watch the teams around you. The only thing that's held this team back is its offense, and now its offense is doing more than enough. The grittiness of Jackson Dart, the oozing of upside of Austin Simmons, who in the preseason, this guy said was Ole Miss's Tua. We're finally seeing Ulysses Bentley being utilized in some way. Now, it's probably only because Henry Parrish is hurt. I'm at a loss for words for the first time in my life, only to say I'm glad you took some time to spend with your friendly neighborhood Ginger Shrek after the greatest Ole Miss football win in modern history. Sounds awesome coming out, doesn't it? Hell yeah. Be good to each other. Everybody got a helmet sticker. Lane won the week. Hell, Jackson Dart won the week. I won the week. We all win the week. I'll see you on Monday. I won't be so sentimental and so reflective, hopefully. And hopefully I didn't bore you to tears. Kind of impossible after that win, right? Be good to each other. Hey, and when you go to church tomorrow, make sure to wear your Ole Miss stuff. I know I'm sure as hell going to. I got to sing in a choir in the morning. I'm going to be wearing it up. You've earned this. You've been through enough. You've experienced enough of the lows to take this day and celebrate it for the monumental achievement for Ole Miss football that it is. Because they are going to make the playoff if they play up to their potential. And when I look at the playoff field, pick your team. Oregon's a good football team. But outside of Oregon, there's not a team, if Ole Miss is operating as it should, that I would pick Ole Miss to lose to. Remember, before they lost to Kentucky, even after Kentucky, but before Kentucky, they were favored to win all of their remaining games. Every single game on their schedule. This isn't a surprise. This isn't shocking the world. This is Ole Miss finally owning its shit. That's all anybody ever wanted anyway. Be good to each other. See you next time.